What's going on, everybody? This is Brian Mazika, the Fight Guys, and I'm also a Forbes contributor. And this is a huge week in boxing. Obviously, we have the Manny Pacquiao versus Keith Thurman WBA welterweight championship bout, and that is the fight that is getting the majority of the attention this week. But it's not the only big fight this week. So I'm going to start a little earlier in the week, and we're going to talk about some of those fights that you probably need to have on your radar. So I'm going to start with the July 19th card from Oxon Hill in Maryland. It's ESPN Plus. It is headlined by Teofimo Lopez against Masayoshi Nakatani. Now, this is an IBF eliminator fight. The winner of this fight is going to get a shot at the title. They're going to get a shot at the IBF title. This is huge for Teofimo because Teofimo is one of the fastest rising prospects in boxing. We did an interview with him a few weeks back. He is chomping at the bit to get a world title opportunity. He wants basically the biggest names at lightweight and some of the biggest names at 135 as well. And I'm sorry, all the way up to 140. He wants the biggest names that he can get, and he is an amazing talent, big time power, speed. He's got it all. He's got the charisma and the personality. Just a fantastic young fighter. Don't know whether or not he'll get Mikey Garcia and the Vasil Lomachenko. Lomachenko is the fight I think that he's looking at right now. I mean, obviously, if you get a Teofimo Lopez Vasil Lomachenko bout, then you're looking at, to me, one of the best fights that can be made in the lower weight classes. There's still some questions as to whether Teofimo is ready for that level of competition. I'll be honest with you, you're not going to necessarily find out against Nakatani. I think Nakatani's a good fighter, but he's not the kind of fighter that I think that should give Teofimo a huge challenge. I think he'll be there and he'll give a good effort, but ultimately I think Teofimo wins this fight. But it is going to be an opportunity to have him showcase. Now, if you have not seen him fight, that is a good time, I'm saying, to get a chance to go ahead and watch him live. You can go back and watch some of his previous stuff as well. He's a pretty exciting fighter. Also on that card, you have Maxim Dadashev taking on Subriel Matthysse. That is an IBF junior welterweight eliminator. So that's also an interesting fight as well. Anytime you get those title eliminators, it's always some stakes there. So that's another good one. And that one's on July, both of those are on the July 19th ESPN Plus card. Now, rolling it into the July 20th, which is Pac-Man and Manny Pacquiao Thurman's date, basically. I mean, they got it locked down. I'm not surprised, but I mean, because these things are scheduled ahead of time. But the UFC has has an event on the same night. I'm thinking Thurman Pacquiao really pretty much dominates the whole combat sports day, but we'll find out. Okay, so July 20th, in addition to Thurman Pacquiao, you also have a DAZN card in London, Dillion Whyte against Oscar Rivas. That's a WBC heavyweight eliminator fight. That's a big fight. The winner will be in a great position to challenge for the WBC title, which is obviously currently held by Deontay Wilder. But of course, there's a lot of stuff going on with that whole thing with the title. It's a lot in disarray at the top of the heavyweight division. But Oscar Rivas and Dillion Whyte are two of the better prospects out there right now. Dillion Whyte, I think, is one of those guys. I think a lot of people are avoiding him. You know, he has power, good size. He has the one loss on his record, and it came to Anthony Joshua early in his career. But Oscar Rivas is only 32 years old, 26 and 0, 18 knockouts. He is a little smallish for the heavyweight division at only 6 feet, a little over 6 feet. So that could be a problem, but for sure he does have the power. He stopped Brian Jennings in his last fight, which was a significant step up for him. And if you had any questions at all about whether or not Brian Jennings still had a little bit of go, he really pushed Joe Joyce quite a bit in his last fight. So Brian Jennings has become a bit of a gatekeeper. So Oscar Rivas made it past, and Joe Joyce both made it past. So we'll see what's going on next. You never know. Brian Jennings might get Tony Yoka next. We'll see that be probably an interesting fight for Yoka, trying to see if Jennings can avoid the three-fight losing streak. But Rivas is an interesting prospect. Well, yeah, at 32 years old as a heavyweight, I guess you'd still call him a prospect. 32 is not old for a heavyweight at all. But that fight with Dillion Whyte is going to be very interesting. It's taking place at the O2 Arena in Greenwich. So you know that the crowd is going to be heavily in Dillion Whyte's favor. And he's going to get the microphone afterwards if he wins. And the conversation is going to be, I'm sure, on how Anthony Joshua's avoiding him, how Deontay Wilder's avoiding him, and the whole nine. So it should be entertaining. Also on that card, Derek Chisora against Archer Spilka. That should be a slugfest. Both of those guys don't take a step backwards. Neither one of them are real title contenders at this point in their career, but it's interesting. Another fight that should be a slugfest, David Allen against David Price. David Price, man, I don't know. It just the guy can crack, but we all know that chin and that defense is super suspect. But he keeps coming, keeps getting stopped, keeps coming, gets a knockout to keep you a little bit more in to keep you engaged a little bit. It's a crazy career that he's having, but he's good for a slugfest, and I think that's what we're probably gonna see. Also on that card, Lawrence Okolie against Mariano Angel Gudino. I like Okolie as a cruiserweight prospect, maybe a potential heavyweight down the road. So I think that one is a really good showcase of big guys, and you don't see a lot of cards with so many big guys on the card. So I think that one is going to be interesting. But then, of course, the whole thing, everything wraps up later on that night with Thurman Pacquiao. And in my opinion, the undercard is pretty solid. You have another title fight on there with Caleb Plant taking on Mike Lee. Mike Lee is from my part of the country. He's from Downers Grove, but he lives in Chicago. I'm a Chicago native, and because he's a local guy, I wish that I could say I'm looking at him potentially beating Caleb Plant. I'm actually not. Caleb Plant's not the biggest puncher, but I think in a battle between two guys who are pretty solid counter punchers, pretty good footwork and balance, I think Caleb Plant has a little bit more pop on his punches, and I think he's set up for a pretty nice knockout victory in this. You never know; anything can happen. But I'm have not been impressed with Mike Lee's opposition, and I think Caleb Plant has fought better fighters. I thought his win over Uzkadagai really, you know, to me, solidified him. Obviously it's how he won his title, but to me it validated him as well as a legitimate fighter. So uh, I got Caleb Plant in that fight, but we'll see what happens. We also got Luis Neri against Juan Carlos Piano. That's to me a very big fight because uh, the fight I really want to see is Neri against the monster. I really want to see Neri against Inui. Inui already knocked out Piano. And I think Neri is like one of the last guys in the weight class that I think has a legitimate shot to be competitive with the monster. So I'd love to see that fight. Also, Sergey Lipinets against John Molina Jr. That's just pretty much going to be a slugfest. Lipinets is a better fighter than Molina, but Molina has a great chin and he can crack. And Lipinets doesn't mind standing there in the pocket and cracking. But I think he's probably going to win that fight, but it still should be entertaining. And then you have your Dinas Ugas against Omar Figueroa Jr. For me, if if Ugas is the same guy he was when he nearly beat Sean Porter, and Figueroa is the on and off again kind of a performer that we see, I think this is a fight that Ugas should win. But Figueroa is an interesting guy. He, People don't realize Figueroa is still undefeated. Like it doesn't seem like it, right? If you think about his career, it just doesn't seem like it. But injuries and other different things have kept him out of the ring. But the kid is still, I mean, he's not even really a kid. He's only 29 years old. He's 28, 0 and 1, 19 knockouts. I don't know that he has real power at welterweight. I know he'll crack, but I don't know if he has that real superpower at heavyweight. I mean at welterweight, which is where he's fighting now. He's also a little short for the welterweight division at this point, 5'7.5". Ugas is going to be the bigger guy in there. Um, I don't know. Seems like a fight that Ugas should win, but it's interesting. It's definitely interesting nonetheless. So I'll be interested in watching that one leading up to Thurman Pacquiao. But as I said, this is a big week for boxing, and I can't wait to take it all in. So I appreciate you guys listening as always. God bless and peace.